Okay, so I think some people will be joining maybe in the next few minutes, but I'm just kind of going to talk a small bit about what we're going to go through today. So we're going to look through or go through the basics of teaching English online, where to start, what is it, how to get work online, which is probably something you're all thinking about. So before I go into that and giving information, I'm just going to tell you a bit about myself first before we move on to that. Brilliant, thanks Dermot. Okay, so I've been working with the TEFL Institute of Ireland now. I joined recently as part of the team, but before that I would have been an English teacher, an online English teacher, and it's something that I've been doing for years. So initially I would have started off in I think it was 2013, 2012, I think I did my first TEFL certificate, and I then went on to do a CELTA. So since then, I've been teaching in many countries around the world. I've taught in Malta, Turkey, Germany, Canada. I've taught here in Ireland too. And I think in around 2016, how I started teaching English online basically was I had a couple of students who I taught at a school, and they decided they wanted to they went home and they said, look, is there any way that you can teach me through Skype? And at the time in 2016, I was like, oh, that's a bit strange, teaching somebody through Skype. But I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go, definitely. So I ended up teaching a couple of students that I know via Skype. And I realized, actually, this is a nice way. You can teach just the same, no problem. You can teach, it's the same amount of money. It's, they still learn. And even though some people think, oh, it's not the same as a classroom, it definitely is. It definitely is, because you think in a classroom, you're not actually touching anybody. You might as well be virtual. So it's, I figured out it was a great way to go. So I ended up starting off, I will go through this in a bit more detail as we go on, but I did start working at an online teaching school first with a company, and I worked with them for about a year, kind of built up a client base. And then what I did after that was I decided I wanted to go kind of freelance or self-employed. So again, I will go through this in a bit more detail when I'm talking about getting work, but I created my own website, and I now teach online there all the time, and I still have been, and I will continue to do so, hopefully, for the next couple of years. And it's definitely something I think that everybody needs to kind of get on board at the minute, because even though we feel like things are slowly getting back to normal, I think online education and distance learning is going to be massive regardless. I think a lot of people have realized, oh, we can work from home, we can learn from home, we don't need to be in a classroom. So I'm just going to run through a few of my notes here, and if you do have questions along the way, you can put them in the chat box. If I don't get to them during the session, then I will answer them at the end. I will leave a bit of time, but if there's something you just want a quick answer on, and if I see it, I'd be more than happy to answer that. Okay. So I suppose I just want to kind of start off with what is teaching English online, and why should we do it? So teaching English online, I suppose, in a definition, is basically teaching non-native speakers over the internet through a camera or video platform. Okay. Over the past few years, and especially in the last year, there's been a massive increase in online learning. I think in 2010, there was a $32 billion industry of online learning. Okay, that's 2010. It's 2015, there was a $108 billion dollar industry, and it's projected in 2025 that there will be a $325 billion in industry, and it's just growing, and it has been growing, and it's definitely the way forward. So the next thing I want to cover is what everybody's probably thinking is, am I qualified to teach English online? Can I do it? Do I need a degree? Do I need this? Do I need that? Those type of things. And it's definitely one of the right questions to be asking. So actually, contrary to what people kind of believe, is that you actually don't need a degree in any discipline to teach English online. If you are a fluent speaker, and you have a very good level of English, preferably native, then you can get your TEFL certificate, how many hours you get, and you can teach. So there are a couple of schools that do require a degree, but there are plenty of options otherwise as well. Okay, and I'm going to run through them as well as we go on. I suppose another trait that people like, so as long as you have your TEFL certificate, they do expect teachers to be kind of have a good personality, to be kind of energetic, you know, and a happy-go-lucky kind of person, because, you know, it's difficult through the screen to kind of show personality. So you do need quite an energetic person to, you know, as being a teacher, it's definitely one of the characteristics that people admire. So for sure. The next thing I'm going to run through is the advantages. Okay, so why am I doing this? Why don't I just teach in a classroom? Why should I jump on the Teaching English Online train? So number one for me, and it's always been number one for me, is that you can do it from anywhere in the world. Obviously, working here in the TEFL Institute of Ireland and being an English teacher for so long, it's obvious I love to travel. I love being anywhere and everywhere. And I have taught English from the beaches in Fiji, from being in Istanbul, you know, in New Zealand, Australia, and you can always provide an income for yourself, which is absolutely amazing. Because I mean, if you're here sitting in this session, I'm sure you love a bit of travel too, or like to have that bit of free time. So yeah, that's number one for me. One of the second things that I admire as well is you set your own schedule. So in most jobs, in most schools, you'll have a 9 to 3 teaching schedule, Monday to Friday. But with Teaching English Online, depending on what company or what school you go for, you do get to set your own schedule. So you can choose, I want to work Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 6 to 10. I want to work, you know, Saturdays and Sundays. I can only do the weekends. So that freedom, again, is something that is fantastic about teaching English online. There's no commute to a school, and that's also massive. You know, a lot of people spend a lot of time in the car, nearly 2 hours driving to schools and back. There's money on diesel. So all those things are quite an advantage for teaching English online. And also another thing is using your TEFL certificate, I suppose, to teach students to learn English. It's actually, you know, you're making an impact, and it's something actually very nice to do. It's fulfilling, and it's something that I suppose it's my favorite thing about the job, is that, you know, you're actually helping somebody succeed in life. You'll have a lot of people come to you saying, I need to learn English to get a visa, or I need to get on in the world, I need to get a job, so I need to learn English. You know, we're very lucky that we all speak English and we have a massive advantage. But for people who don't, this is really changing their lives, and it's a lovely thing to note. You know, it's a nice feeling, and it's a great thing to do overall. So that would be my other benefit for teaching English online as well. And for those people, I suppose, who can't afford to get to a school, getting lessons online is a fantastic option for them as well. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to move on to, and if you do want to grab, I don't know if you have maybe a pen and a paper, because I'm just going to mention a few companies that you might want to. Now, you can always get in touch with us afterwards, but I will name a few companies out here. And just before I do so, I'm just going to answer this question here in the chat box. Is the 120-hour TEFL course enough to get a job teaching English online? So yeah, it is a minimum, the 120-hour there, just so everybody knows. I will go through the website, but it is the industry standard all over the world. That's the minimum amount of hours you need by employers. Okay, so we'll run through the courses at the end, but yes to that's fine. Okay, so how do I get work online? Okay, I don't know how many of you here have completed your TEFL certificate, or you are thinking about doing a TEFL certificate, but either way, these pieces of information are very beneficial for you when looking for work. So there are 3 ways that you can get started online. You can go down the route of being an employee, being a freelance worker, or being your own business owner. Okay, so we'll start with the first one, and that's the one that I did initially when I first started teaching English online, was that you are an employee. Okay, so in this option, you sign up with an online teaching school, you get hired, you sign a contract, you get fixed pay, and you get fixed hours. So it's like any other 9 to 5 job. You have your contract, your salary, your hours. The advantages of this kind of institution or company is that you're guaranteed your income. At the end of the month or at the end of the week, you've guaranteed hours and you get your income that way. And if you're somebody who prefers that type of steadiness, or to be that reliable, then it's definitely the option for you. As well as that, with most of these type of online teaching schools, they provide a lot of the material and the curriculum, because normally they'd have a massive database of materials, and this is perfect. You don't have to go do the work. You don't have to be preparing the lessons, essentially, and it's all done up for you. And you do get a bit of training as well, which is nice. And if you're somebody who likes a bit of routine and is used to the routine, then that's your option as well. The disadvantage to this type of training would be it's not always highly paid, like when you compare it to being a freelancer or doing your own thing or setting up your own business. It's not as high as other jobs would be. I think they vary from anywhere from like $5 to $20 an hour. It does depend. And most of the time, well, not most of the time, but the majority of the time, they do require you to have a university degree if you're getting a job with the online teaching schools. Now, that could be in any discipline. It could be science, it doesn't have to be education, but definitely I'd say 70% of the online teaching schools do require you to have a degree. So yeah, that would be the kind of disadvantages of going down that route. The second route that you can go down is the freelance option. Before I go on to that, actually, I'm just going to mention a couple of online teaching schools. So if you feel like you have a university degree, or you'd like the 9 to 5 type contract, salary, hours, those type of things, a couple of companies that work like this are, I don't know if any of you have heard of them, but VIP Kid is a very big company that would work like that. iTutor, they're very popular as well. Say ABC is another one of those. So I'm just going to put a couple of them in here for you in the chat as well. So Say ABC, Data ABC, iTutor. So they'd be online teaching schools. Okay, and don't forget as well, don't worry about taking all this information in right now. If you do have questions, we have plenty of people to answer those questions for you after the session, so don't worry too much about not getting all the information at once. Okay, so the next option you can do is be a freelancer. Okay, so in this option, you teach on an online teaching platform that connects students and teachers. Okay, so they're providing the platform, they're providing the video, they're providing the web interface, all those type of things. And you basically create a profile and you advertise yourself on that profile. Okay, so they have a massive reach of students. You give your little profile about yourself, your experience, and why the student should teach with you, and they can book you. That's the way those type of companies work. The advantages of those type of companies is that you can choose your own hours. You can create your own wage on your profile. So you can say, I'm $20 an hour, I'm $40 an hour. You create that yourself, and you can choose your students as well. So if there's somebody, it just gives you that choice if you're not too happy with teaching some people. But there's more autonomy. You definitely work on your own schedule. It feels a lot freer. that's one thing. I actually worked for another freelance online platform as well, and it was great because you could say, okay, this weekend's a bank holiday. I'm not going to do any work this weekend, but next week you say, okay, I'm free all day Saturday and Sunday. So you put your hours on a kind of a calendar and you put your hours free and you say, I'm free here, 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 and here. So now in most of those companies, they will expect you to work at least 10 hours or something like that, but you can choose them yourself and you can do as many hours as you want. So that's nice. It's much easier this way as well than finding your own students. You know, this platform has created the student database for you already. So that's great, much easier. The disadvantage to the freelance type thing is that income is not always guaranteed because you don't know if some student wants to book with your profile. And often there can be a bit of competition between teachers because you might have 20 or 30 teachers on the platform. The student comes onto the website and they're saying, okay, this person is $20, this person is $5, this person has this experience, and they're choosing a tutor. So there is a bit of competition sometimes, and the income is not guaranteed always. So a couple of companies like this, I just want to mention, I'll throw them into the chat box there again. So one of the big ones is italki. I don't know if you've heard of them. Palfish is another one, a big one. And for those ones, actually, you don't need a degree. So that's nice. And there's another one in Europe. It's called Fluentify. I worked with them before. So that's a good profile as well. Okay. And I'm just going to put one more there. It's TutorMe is another one. So it's definitely worth anyway looking at these websites, because even if people say they require a degree or they require a certain criteria, because there's such a demand right now for online English teachers, you'd be surprised that the company might say, okay, look, we have an overflow of students, we'll take you without the degree, you know, if you can compensate in other areas, if you're a good personality or you've good experience in other ways. Do they provide lesson plans is a lovely question. Sometimes they do. It depends on the company, but mostly no. For example, the company I worked with, Fluentify, they didn't create lesson plans, but what the student could do is they would create, they'd pick a package. So they want to improve their business English, they want to improve their grammar, they want to improve this, and you get training on those subjects, which is great. But they don't necessarily provide you the lesson plans like they would in the online teaching schools. Bit more work involved, but you get more money at the end, so it's worth it. Okay, and the last option, what you can do, and what I hope a lot of you will end up doing, is you can do it yourself and become your own business owner. Okay, you build your own online teaching business and you have full control over every aspect of your professional life. Okay, you are your own boss, which is the dream, again, you know, there's always in general, being self-employed, you're not always guaranteed the income, so that can be worrying for some people. But on the plus side, you know, you have a higher income, you can set your own rates, you can create it the way you want to create it. So I'll just tell you a bit while we're on this here, I'll just tell you a bit about how I started that. So initially I started off with a freelance subject or a freelance school. And I got my experience for a year, learned how it all worked, got used to the technology, got used to the way you give homework or correct homework, all those type of things. Got great training and really learned a lot in my time there. And after that, I said I was going to kind of create my own little business. And I started off with very basic, creating my own Facebook page. Okay, because that's completely free. And if you don't want to pay for a website or anything yet, build your own little Facebook business page, advertise to people, tell people you're doing this, you know, share on your own platforms. I'm sure you know people who need to learn English, or you might have some contacts somewhere. Get them to share your Facebook page, and you know, that's, you can start it there. I first used Skype. So I would say, if they said they were interested, you know, you say, great, we can connect on Skype. Okay. And that's how you start. Eventually, then when you build up a bit of a client base, it's worth thinking about creating your own website. So I paid someone for me to create a website for what I wanted, and I included like a calendar link where they could book the lessons. Nothing too complicated, but I definitely couldn't do it myself. So I got someone to do that. And as time went on, then I started kind of upgrading my website, putting more money into it. Maybe what you can do eventually is integrate your own video platform. So instead of using a third-party platform like Skype or Zoom, you could actually have that in the website. Now that's quite expensive, of course, but you know, as time goes on, it's definitely something to look at and to think about. Yeah, so that's an option for a lot of people as well, and especially if you're working maybe in a different country, or you know people that might want to learn English and they can spread the word easily. That's a lovely way to do it eventually. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to just kind of run through for you is, I don't know, as I said before, I don't know where you all are with in your TEFL training, or where you are and what qualifications do you have. So there was a lovely question there a while ago about having the 120-hour course, and this is industry standard. Okay, when they say you need a TEFL certificate, you need a 120. Obviously, if you have a higher qualification, maybe, you know, 180-hour level 5, or you have some extra specialist courses, you are going to look better on a CV. You know, you're going to look more attractive. And it's like any job interview you go into, you know, somebody else has more qualifications, you might consider them because of the qualifications. So it's definitely worth looking into. There's another question there from Nuala, which I'll go back to in a minute, just when I go through this. So I'm going to share my screen with you here, guys, and I just want to show you on the website what's the best course to do if you haven't enrolled already. So I'm just going to share here. Hopefully this runs smoothly. Okay, here we are. Okay, can you all see the screen okay there? Great. Okay, so this is the website, and I just want to let you know where you can get a bit more information on teaching English online as well. So up here at the top, there's a tab there that says Teach Online, and there's a couple of blogs, a lot of content that you could read through that would help you. So there's some Teach English Online jobs, how to become a successful online teacher, a day of life in the online ESL teacher, and so on. And down here as well, Teach English Online FAQs. That's a lovely one to run through. And it just gives you that bit more of information. If you're not qualified, I'd recommend to go here onto our TEFL courses. And if you come down here, we have a course, and it's called the Ultimate Online Teacher. Okay, this course just sets you up perfectly, I suppose, for teaching online. If the goal in the end maybe is to go a bit further with TEFL, or you might want to make a bigger career out of it, you might look at the level 5s here. But essentially, if you're just looking to start teaching English online, this course is fantastic because it covers the 120, but it also covers a 30-hour teaching English online course as well that will really help you get set up, especially if you're used to teaching in a classroom, or you're not too sure about, I don't know, technology, those type of things. And another thing I don't know how many of you as well have practical experience. So sometimes it looks good on your CV to have a bit of teaching experience under your belt. And if you don't have that, a good way to get that at the moment is here we have our 10-hour virtual TEFL course. Okay, and that gives you 10 hours of teaching practice, basically. We used to run our courses in Dublin, Cork, Galway, and you get your bit of lesson planning, teaching course. They're fantastic courses, and we've great tutors on board as well. But obviously, of course, at the minute they're not running, so we've kind of just transitioned online. and we've have a 10-hour virtual TEFL course. If you're looking for a bit of practical experience, it's a great way to go. And I'm also going to show you as well here, if you guys are on Instagram, we have a lot of content for teaching English online here as well. So if you want to go in, there's a bit more information, and we're always sharing content on our page about teaching English online. It's good with a bit of blogs and just good resources. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen there now. Okay. Perfect. And if you guys there, I can leave it open to a few questions there. I'm happy to run through them. So Nuala, what rates would typically apply when running your own business? Oh, that's a tricky question because it can really, really vary. And I mean, what I would suggest doing is, if you are thinking about running your own business, or even if you're on a freelance page and you're asked to put a price on your lessons, always ask what type of lesson they're going to do, because if you're doing a general conversational English lesson and you're chatting with the student, you're correcting them, those type of things, you're not going to be charging €50 for a talk, basically, if you know what I mean, so you start off with the basic rate for those type of lessons. You could charge, it really does depend, but I mean, 12, 13, 14, €15 an hour when you're starting off. And as you build up, you could definitely charge more. If you're looking into doing more with the students, so if you're teaching them grammar, if you're teaching them how to teach reading, how to teach listening, how to teach all these type of things, and it's getting a bit more advanced, then you can also charge a bit more. Okay, how you'd break those up is you could say general English, and then you could say something like premium general English. Okay, this is adding in, if you're sending them homework, if you're spending time correcting writing, if all these type of things, if you're putting extra work in and preparing materials much more, you can definitely charge like 20, 25 an hour if you're starting off. And even better then, I'm not sure if you guys have booked onto any of our specialist courses, but if you have the training to teach business English, or if you have the training to teach exam English, the exams are the IELTS and the TOEIC. So say a student wants to get a visa and they must do an English test, you are trained or you are licensed to teach in that area. If you are providing a lesson like that, you can charge much more again, because they're specialized areas of English. Business, there's a lot more work goes into it on your end and on the student's end. So you can definitely charge more there. So if you're somebody who's just booked onto the basic 120 hour or the 180 hour, if you're looking to kind of open up more avenues or open up more routes, you could definitely go for a specialized course as well, and you can get paid that bit more. Okay, I hope that answers that question. Okay, I have a master's in post-primary education in English and geography. Will I still need to complete a TEFL online in order to teach English online? Yes, you actually do. No matter what kind of if you have a PhD in education, the employer will always expect a TEFL course. But in that case, I would suggest then for you to just do our basic TEFL course, do the minimum amount, do the 120 hours so you're qualified. You wouldn't need the level 5 because you have the teaching skills. But yeah, it doesn't matter what type of degree you have, you will always need a TEFL to teach English in a school or even to teach English online. Okay, and there's another question there. Do you teach groups or one-to-one? That does depend on the company you go for. I personally teach one-to-one at the moment, but there's a lot of big companies out there, like especially in Asia and in China, where you could be teaching maybe 5 or 6 kids in a class. Again, you would get paid more for that type of work, but there would be training and everything provided. That normally goes with online teaching schools. Again, if you're setting up your own business or doing on your own, that's your choice. That is your choice. Okay. how do I know if my level of English is good enough to teach? So if you're not a native speaker, or you just think that your English isn't up to standard, because believe me, before I started teaching, I couldn't tell you about English grammar. I mean, who knows what the present perfect is? Oh God, it was just a nightmare trying to start with it. We don't learn grammar in school growing up. You know, we don't learn it. We just know why it is the way it is. But we have an English level test, Brian, on our website where you can check your level of English, and it kind of tells you what course they think you should do, you know, so what course they think you need, by answering a few questions, and it will guide you to the right way. So that's a great one to check out, the English level test. Okay, Colleen, if teaching Chinese students, children, what are the Irish time zone hours for teaching? Yeah, so teaching in Asia is massive. And right now, that's where there's a massive, massive demand. I don't know if you guys have even seen the news today, but for example, South Korea opened up all their schools and now they're all closed again after Wednesday, after 2 days because of COVID-19. So everything's gone back online again. So it's just, it's massive in Asia. You are going to be doing not so pleasant hours. I mean, you're not going to be getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, but maybe, you know, an evening shift like 7 to 10, or in the morning, 7 to 9, those type of hours. So it's not horrible, not horrendous, but yeah, you're not going to have your standard 9 to 5 if you're teaching in Asia, you know. Okay, you're very welcome. Yeah, so some of our employers actually, there's a question there. People are asked about verifying their certificate. I don't know if anybody has been through the interview process yet or had a bit of experience in applying to these online schools and companies, but sometimes your employer will ask you to verify your certificate, to make sure it's legitimate and it's not bought off Groupon and it's a accredited and regulated course. So we have a section actually on our website. It's under the Teaching English Online tab, and in there, if you're applying to any employer, you can put your certificate number in there and that will verify it for you, so you have no hassle. Because otherwise they have to get in contact with us and say, oh, is this person enrolled in the course? But it's very simple now for the employer just to pop your certificate number into the verification box and there you go, it's verified. So that's a great thing to look at if people are asking. Okay, so how soon am I going to get a job after the course? So that depends on you, like any other job, like any other profession. And it would be wrong for me to guarantee you a job. I can't say, okay, you did the course, you're going to get a job. That wouldn't be fair. It comes down to things like your own personality, your own proactiveness, you know, like you would do in any interview. But I can tell you that there are a lot of teaching positions available at the moment, here and abroad. So definitely a good time to be looking, for sure. Yeah, if there's any other questions, you can pop them in the box there. And I just want to tell you again, as I said, don't worry too much if you have, you know, a million questions in your head, or you're thinking, oh, I didn't catch everything, I didn't get everything. You know, we're there. Get in touch with us through our website. You know, we have advisors that can help you, and especially if you're looking for work. As I said before, we can't guarantee it, but we're more than happy to help you get a job teaching English online, and we'll do our very best as well. This is one more question here from Cherie. Does teaching children ages 2 to 5 count as teaching experience? It does. It does. So if you've worked, say, in a Montessori or a primary school, or like you're saying here, that can, that does qualify as teaching experience. Some schools might say you'll be teaching with adults, but technically that's teaching experience. So yeah, that's great. You can put that down on your CV, and when you're applying to that particular school or job, you can put that down as teaching experience, which is great. Yeah, I think that's all the questions there. there is also, I'll send you guys a follow-up email just with a teaching English online guide as well, okay, just to kind of wrap things up, a PDF booklet of just a bit more information. As I said, there's a lot of information on the website too, and please don't be a stranger. Feel free to give us a call. That's why we're here. You know, we're here to get you work and get you TEFL certified, so no problem. And just a question there from Dermot, is there work in the summer or does it quieten down? Actually, with TEFL, I don't know if you're talking about online or in general, but it's an all year round thing. You know, bar a few weeks at Christmas, schools are open all the time. You have students, as you know yourselves, you know, you have students coming in from Spain. You have um, like language exchange programs. A lot of the universities have language centers. For example, UCC, UCD, Trinity College, they all have a language center in their university, and those programs run all summer long. So it's an all year round thing, so it doesn't really quieten down at all. Now it does get a bit busier in September, I suppose. That's just naturally, people are kind of more free and don't want to be learning in the summer, but it's definitely an all year gig, which is fantastic. And there's just one more thing there. Can you send a link to the basic 120-hour course? I will, of course. I'll just put it into the chat box as soon as I finish here. No problem. And yeah, thanks very much, guys. That was it. I hope you got a bit of information and this helped you even a small bit. And as I said to you, of course, you're very welcome. Thanks so much, guys.